Okay, hello. So my name is Werner Eriksen. I met some of you quite a few times now at summits, and it's basically an update on a project that's been going on for quite some time now. I'll share some things that you have seen before for some of you, and other things that we have discovered on our way. Just a brief note on who we are, and I'll also get a question about the name. So Working Group 2 is inspired by this gentleman, which is actually carrying the world's first GSM phone. So the story goes that in the standardization work on GSM, on the air interface, there were competing standards or ideas from the big guys like Motorola, Eriksen, Nokia, etc. And then you had a few guys in a small university in Norway. They were doing experiments up in the mountains like this. And they actually ended up competing with the big guys, where ETSI, the standardization body, held a competition amongst the different alternatives. They built a route through Paris, and they made some test cases, and they said whoever makes the best tests will actually be nominated the standard. And a handful of guys up in the mountains managed to beat the rest because there were a few guys that had some great ideas, and they managed to iterate like crazy. So it inspired us to take the name from the working group they were part of. So it's actually working party 2 on the GSM standardization work. So this is one of the guys up in his cabin trying this.
5G prototypes?
Yeah, well, the 5G, he couldn't carry that one. So we will see. It will be actually better.
Yeah.
And then the story behind why we exist. So this is actually from one of our customers. This is innovation in telcos today, especially on the mobile side. It's probably quite similar in many markets today. The competition is not necessarily on the core product, other than adding more gigabytes to your bundle. But they do try, of course, to capture the customers, and they invest quite a lot on the marketing side. So I was talking to them a couple of years ago, and they were quite happy about their innovation, because I asked them, what's driving your innovation and what are you trying to do? And he showed me this counter. Okay, so here's a great offer. It lasts for like 18 days, and it was counting down. It was super happy. He said, okay, we spent some time on this, blah, blah, blah. And then just for fun, I wanted to check their competitor. The same day. So basically, what they could do, they could go onto their web page, go and copy the JavaScript and some CSS. Actually, they changed the CSS, so it's but you look at the offer, it's fairly similar, and the counter has run farther, so they actually had a better innovation. But this was, and to a large extent, is the way that many of the mobile operators of today innovate. All right, there's not much they do on the base products, and we were a little bit frustrated by that. And I just found this thing, which I think is very different from the way that most operators work today. And this is a story about Amazon and blah, 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 how they, it was not like one big idea that you just put out there and was all dandy. It was actually trying to iterate like crazy to actually find the products that actually someone is willing to buy or use, all right? And if you contrast that, I was happy to see this. It's our favorite thing, RCS, and now, lo and behold, it's 2019. RCS is going to be the thing in the US.
I have it on my phone.
Exactly. But of course, they will not use what you have on your phone. They will build something new in collaboration with a few big guys, and it's going to be a nice committee. And then someone is trying to do this. And in this article they say, if you don't know, it's really complicated on the back end. So that's the technical side. But even more importantly, it's on the political, so the political side is even more tricky, all right? And this, of course, is a very different model to innovate and build services than, the web companies out there today. And that's why they should be very happy that they're not competing on a day-to-day basis with these guys, all right? However, we feel that if you look at a mobile operator in a very simplified view, you have basic access. This is the radio side. And this is where you normally feel the Gs. 1G, 2G, 4G, and now 5G will give better speeds or latency or whatnot. And if you look at innovation, there's quite a lot of good stuff going on there. You know, there's a lot of investment trying to make the next G much faster, better, and support more different applications, etc. And then you move into the backend or the core, which is handling the calls, the messaging, and the data side. And we feel that the willingness to invest and actually the iteration speed, if you want. If you look at SMS as iteration 1, now RCS is like 40 years later. It's a very slow iterative process, and we feel that this is underrepresented when it comes to where the operators have been actually spending the money and actually delivering on the products. And then on the billing side, there's lots of good things going into the billing system to make it. Initially, it was to confuse it as much as possible. Now that's less so because it's a big bundle. And then customer care, we talked about these chatbots and try to optimize that, make that a better experience. And then I think on the marketing side, there's been a lot of willingness to spend the money and dollars, and that's where things happen. So this is not scientific. We chose to actually see if we can do something about this, and that's what we've been doing for quite some years now. And I'm not going to bother you with this, but this is actually the complexity that we're working with. Okay, so when we build our systems, we need to support the 2Gs, the 3Gs, the 4Gs, and then this tiny little application on top to deliver voice called IMS. And it's a fairly complex picture. And you would believe that this is not an area where you have a small team entering and try to redo things. But that's actually what we've been trying to do. The reason why we did it is actually we found that when we started the project as part of a big opco or operator, namely Telenor in Norway, you wanted to build some simple services just to enhance the user experience for messaging. So the initial idea was to enable sending and receiving SMSs from SIM-less devices. Should have been there 15 years ago. Did not happen. We wanted to try it out. And we found that we could use some of the APIs. And then we wanted the next API. Oh, that was not there. So it needs to be prioritized. It's a very long journey to get there. And of course, when we wanted to move this into the next operator, it was totally different. All right, so we couldn't actually scale this at all as a developer, even internally. And then, of course, this is the guy that we want to attract. This is the guy that we want to give the tools and APIs to iterate and work like crazy. And of course, when we expose this guy to the telco world today, he falls down on the floor and he will not iterate or not make a new dish for you whatsoever. So what we try to do is, instead of having every operator building something, if they even try, and that is only available within this footprint, all right? It doesn't scale very much. So if you want to bring it to the next network, it's, start all over again. Or if you as a third-party developer, trying to do something, it's all over again. Whereas if you look at, what the app stores have been able to do, to give you a set of APIs, a runtime environment, and you build it once, and it should work across the different devices. And that's how you can build, a community of developers that can help, testing crazy new ideas or real good ones. And for them to be attracted to this, there needs to be enough of those, all right, and enough customers on it. Here you will have, normally, you talked about, 100 million being too little for some players to engage. Okay, 100 million is a big number, but it should be more than most operators in a small market like Norway, for instance, to attract developers. Then what we have found, and this is not necessarily super surprising, but I called it microservices, and someone will say, "Oh, is it the Kubernetes and what we talked about yesterday?" No, not in this sense. So we have found that we don't think that there will be like a single killer app on top of the mobile network. Okay, we don't think so. However, we think there can be hundreds and thousands of small microservices that will make sense for micro segments. And if you add them all up, it will actually give you a much better offering in the market. Okay, so just take a lawyer as a small example. We have talked to some of them, and they say, well, if you can do some simple things, these are maybe advanced, but it's not super hard. give me a way to reach out to my clients from my CRM tool, make sure that when someone calls me, I know the context, make sure that I can have my logs for conversations I've had with the customers, both for voice and messaging, etc. And in Scandinavia, everything happens on the mobile, all right? I don't even know how to dial out. If I find an office phone, whatever, I would be hard-pressed to actually dial out from that company, all right? Is it zero first? There is a zero, how to get out or whatnot? And that goes for most people in Scandinavia these days, and I think that's the way it goes. The mobile is, the center of the universe also for communication towards, clients and customers. And the final thing is the call recording, making sure that, I can record and maybe transcript and search, what do we agree or not. And this is just a fairly small example. And I think most operators today, if they really put their will into it, could deliver on this. However, very few have, okay? And the reason for that is that the way that the networks are built today is more for building the basics and optimize for cost. It's not to open up and ensure that you could get someone to build this, all right? And some of you guys actually have some of these pieces that you could plug in that maybe made this easier. Okay, we saw some examples today. But it's not happening, all right? In most mobile operators today, this is not happening in the next couple of years. And this is what we try to change. I have a small example of a microservice that I might be able to demonstrate. How are we doing for time? Am I okay?
Yeah, we got 8 minutes.
And of course, I had to play with the devil. And I think, combining a lot of these together, I think can bring a lot of value, all right? So in this example, I'm traveling to the UK, or I'm setting up a business in the UK. Was it £12.50 or something? Yeah. And then, of course, I would like to pretend that I am here, even though I'm in Norway, on my mobile phone. So what I did, I went to someone to acquire this number. And this is a London number. And we connected it to our mobile core network. So if someone cares to dial this number, 020 397 42948. And then I have my phone down here, I think. And it's actually ringing. Our cost 33, that was the winner today. Hello, hello. Still ringing. It should actually it's ringing, but I couldn't pick it up. Okay, so that's you can talk to the gentleman over there that's implementing it. So what I'm trying to just show you is that by combining a lot of these micros. Okay, there's another call. There's many calls. Okay, that's fine. It's me. So it's a good day for my business. Okay, it's gonna do. So in a couple of reasonable short time, we managed to connect, one of these providers of numbers or whatever, to have inbound calling, and it ends up on my Norwegian, SIM card, Norwegian phone. And what we of course want in the next phase is that when I dial out to someone in UK, this is the number I display. All right. So you just hit ring back, and then it will end up on this. It's a tiny, tiny little thing, and it's not very hard for us to build. However, I think for some, it will create a lot of value, all right? And you could use this or someone else that's providing, a better deal, whatever. We saw that yesterday, that Sebastian calculated that, it's a rip-off deluxe. But actually, for me, getting this going in a couple of days, a couple of clicks is, attractive, and I'll do it. And then, okay, the next step might be that you move to someone else, all right? And this is what we think that in the mobile networks, it's possible to do these innovations. All operators in the world will tell you that, yeah, this is possible. However, it's going to cost you multi-million dollars per iteration, right? And of course, most projects, they fail with the first iteration, and then, okay, you spend all the money on the first, so it's not going to be the second. This tends to be, the melody in many of these books. And even if you build something that was pretty successful, reselling that or sharing that or doing that with someone else is not happening. It's really, really tricky. So we think that, you need to fix the basics. And for the basics for us is actually the components in the core network, okay? I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But the way we built the company and what we try to do is actually that on the outside, it looks like a standard network, like any. You need to support the 3GPP standards, blah, blah, blah. But we want to take advantage of, the latest software development methodologies, from the last 10 years, all right? And mobile vendors today are still trying to catch up. 5G, they bring in some new things, but then they bring in things that the Webscale companies left 5 years ago, okay? So they're always kind of catching up. And that means that your ability to innovate and build new things in low cost, high speed is really, really tricky. So we wanted to mimic that. And of course, we wanted to enable the carrier or the mobile operator to deliver, services, APIs that enhances, the value of every SIM card. So the service I showed now is on my personal SIM card. It's not like a switchboard or a special thing, all right? This is enhancement to every SIM on the platform that you can provide. We want to take advantage of the way that I call it Webscale. I read the other day, Netflix is rolling out 4,000 updates a day to a live service with a couple of 100 million. If you talk to a classic mobile, if you talk to Sebastian, it's not going to be 4,000 a day, actually. It's not going to be 4,000 ever, because it's like going to be twice a year on this node, maybe once a year on that node, and altogether we might have 4,000, or in the lifetime.
Okay, it's doubling, right? It's at 2,000 years.
It's 2,000 years. But if you manage to make these changes at this speed, you could gradually add or remove functionality, and you can fit, exactly into a picture that, makes sense for the end user. And we want to bring that in, and we are getting there. We're not at 4,000 a day, but I think that the target is that you should be able to see one push per developer per day in production. Right? That is like the baseline. So imagine this in a traditional setup. That's quite difficult. And that's why we also have to deliver this as a service, all right? Because I can't send out new releases of every component like 10 times a day. No one's going to be able to handle that. You need a team that's building it, to roll it out, roll it back, take care of it, monitor it, learn from it. And if we manage to do this, I think we can, have a very different pace on bringing new functionality to the customers. We can learn from what is going well and not so well, and immediately fix it. 2 minutes. This is my favorite, but I'm going to skip it. And then we have learned some other things. And we touched briefly on it yesterday about being able to do all of these nice things, rolling out new things, etc., etc. You need to take advantage of things like Kubernetes or something similar. However, they were not built, they were built for these types of traffic, So you have to give it to them. I think HTTP is the only protocol in the world, and that's where they started, and they invested a lot in supporting that. However, in mobile networks, you have, and also in web, you have strange protocols like UDP, and even the stranger ones, SCTP. It's coming along with some support. But as an example, SCTP is there in an alpha, and the last release of Kubernetes is 1.16. This was introduced in 1.12, but it's still in alpha. And if you read the disclaimer, do you want this, to be in the core network that maybe not. So there's still work to be done. And I think this industry has an issue with, there's not 100% match there, okay? So there are workarounds, but they do cost something. But I think there's no way around these tools if you want to achieve the goals we have, all right? We have been trying this for quite some time. So we started out with a simple service almost 7 years ago. We managed to put a basic setup in a live service 4 years ago, and we've been commercially live now for 2 years, all right? So we're soon crossing, the 6-digit mark on active subscriber on this network. And we're doing, multiple releases into production every day, even in this live network. And we're starting to build out some new services. And I think we would like to talk to some of you about, integrating some of the things that you do. And hopefully we can bring to you a market across many operators that, makes it more attractive for you to work with the mobile operators. And I'm right on time.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Time for one quick question for Werner. If not, I'm just going to rush us through. So Tim, you can come on down. As I said